Welcome to Tenor Guitar Time. Thanks for joining me. All right, I hope you've had some progress with the A-shaped chords and their arpeggios. And just as a quick reminder, the A-shaped major form, the minor form in the A-shape, and the seventh form in the A-shape. In my mind, the A-shaped chords are the bar chords of the tenor guitar. Just like on the guitar, when you play your guitar bar chords, the lowest note is your root note. It's very strong. You have all your 1, 3, and 5 in the chord. It's nice and full. You can move them anywhere. You can quickly identify what chord it is by what note you're playing. So let's talk about some chord variations you can use in the A-shaped form that are based on the notes of the arpeggio. So I'm going to do these at the, we'll just do them at the C again. Here's our C major arpeggio, as I'm sure you've learned with all your practice. And that's all the important notes of the major chord, the 1, 3, and the 5. So we can take any combination of those notes in that arpeggio, and it's going to be some type of major chord. It may emphasize the third note, it may emphasize the 1 or the 3. There may not be a 1 in it at all. So variation 1 just uses the 1 and the 5th. That one works for major or minor because the 1 and the 5 are in the major chord and the minor chord, and it doesn't use the third, which is the defining note that tells it if it's major or minor. Variation 2. We have all our 1, 3, and 5. We're just not using the high, muting the high string. Variation 3, we're going to mute the D string and the E string, and we're only playing the 1 and the 3rd, which is really all we need in order to tell what it is, to identify it as a major chord. So for muting this D string, I'm muting by laying my first finger a little flat, fretting that string, and my first finger is also muting the high E string right here. So the first finger is doing all the muting as well as fretting that low note. So you can hear how that leaves more room for other instruments or a vocal line. And variation 4, that green dot is just the starting root note, just so you can locate where we are. We're not playing that note. So in this example, I'll call that the C. So in our major arpeggio, so we're using this third note here, the major third, and the 1. Variation 5, we're going to keep those low notes there and add another third in there. And variation 6 is one of these symmetrical forms where the pattern matches one step down on the high 2 strings, whatever's happening on the low strings. And that's just doesn't have any fifths in it. It's just the 1 and the 3. All right, let's look at some minor chord variations of the A shape. Here's our minor standard form. Again, we can play the low 2 notes, the 1 and the 5, which can stand in for a C minor in this case. Here's a minor form that mutes the D and the E string. So it's only playing the root note and the flatted third. more percussive because you are striking those muted notes, so you get a little chunk in there, which is a nice effect. These 2-note chords going from minor and major, where I'm muting the D and the E string, and really the only thing that's changing is the minor shape, and the major shape just stretches out one more fret. So that song in particular, it goes. Variation 3 is, let's go back to our C minor. Our first in the arpeggio, our flatted third right there, and we're using the 5th. Now I'm muting the high strings. All right, variation 4. So it uses these notes of the arpeggios with, it's got 2 root notes in it. All right, and variation 5. So I've got the 5th in there, the flatted third. The 1 note is on the high string here. So we have 2 flatted thirds. It's a little strange sounding, it's different. And then here's variation 6, which uses the low end more. So we got our flatted third, our root note here, and another flatted third. So this one emphasizes the flatted third. Let's look at some variations of the 7th chord in the A shape. So here's our basic form. So variation 1 drops the pinky over here and gets rid of the high string. Variation 2 builds on this shape. So if we have our original form, we drop the pinky. Now see that stair step pattern? I'm going to slide my first finger there. Now that form has no 1 in it. Alright, variation 3 is fairly common. You see this in some chord books. It's a nice full variation. That one sounds great. Alright, variation 4. These 3 fingers here I'm going to leave in the same position, but use my first finger where my second finger is. So it's going to come right here, and then we can use our pinky on the low string. Root note on the high string. And then here's a strange one where I'm muting the 2 middle strings, the D and the A string, and I'm just fretting the low note and the high note. So it's weird because it's very percussive. And with the chord variation, so if you're playing songs you know, instead of only playing them down here, try some of these different variations on the second time around, on the second verse, or the third verse, try a different variation, and so on. We've learned some many variety of chord shapes, how to create new chords. Another idea besides all that is if you're in one of your standard chord forms, and we're using the A shape, so let's talk about that. Just take one finger in the chord and move it by 1 fret. A lot of times just moving one pinky or one finger, you can create a whole section of just alternating chords. Like if I go, and incidentally, this is how George Harrison starts something by moving in the C chord, moving 1 note down. And he goes to the F. So let's try that in the minor, and don't just move it on one string. You can lift that pinky up and let's bring it up to this D string. That's nice. Ooh, dissonant. And you can do that, of course, with the 7th note as well. All right, in previous lessons, we've talked about changing up the patterns when you're practicing your arpeggios, which is good practice to get into so that your fingers memorize different ways to move between the strings. If you only practice the same patterns all the time, when you get into a song situation and you want to play a solo or create a melody, your fingers are going to want to go in the same way they always go. So it's very advantageous to slow down and retrain your fingers to go in a different order. Let's do a different order with this major arpeggio. I'm going to move it up to the D. So let's do this D major because it's a little shorter scale. I don't want it to be too much of a long reach at first. So the D major in the A shape. So you can practice this by skipping one note each time. So you're playing one note, skipping a note, and playing the third note. Now before we did this by doing them in a row by going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this time we're not doing 1, 2, 3 in a row. We're skipping the second note and we're just going first note to the third note. Then we go back to the note we skipped and then go from there, skip a note and go to the third note from that note. That would be this. Let's work on a song where we can practice moving these shapes around all up and down the neck. In order to practice our A shape, major, minor, and 7th chord, this song has all of those, and we can just practice moving it around, which really gets us familiar with where these chords are up and down the neck. Let's work on this song, What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, using the A-shaped chords. So we have a C, E minor at the 9th fret, F at the 10th fret, back to E minor, D minor at the 7th fret, C at the 5th fret, E7 at the 9, down to A minor at the 2nd. And a beautiful surprise chord, I love this, is this A flat major. D major 7. Now that's a new chord shape. You can see it on the board. You can see it posted there. So D minor 7th. So here's our D minor. Now we already know the 7th is the the flatted note from that root, which is right here. So D minor, and there's a 7. Okay, so where was that? Yeah. D minor 7th, G, C, G, C. So it does that twice. And then it goes to the bridge, and the bridge is G, colors of the rainbow, C, pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people passing by. A minor, E minor, A minor, E minor, F, E minor, D minor, C, G. And then the verse, the third time the verse comes around, there's a few new chords in it. So we're going to do that D minor 7 again. We're also going to have a B flat 7. So here's our B flat note on the 3rd fret. We just do our 7th form of the A shape to A7 on the 2nd fret. And then this F major 7th chord happens only once, right on the last line. It's at the 10th fret. The major 7th chord just takes your regular major shape, and the high note comes down 1 fret to the major 7th note. It's a beautiful chord. All right, let's try this with the metronome. Let me just give you a kind of rhythm. So we're doing 3 notes, 3 beats per each note of the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, I say tree. Second verse. I see skies are blue, clouds are white, bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And then the bridge or chorus. Friends shaking hands, how do you do? Last verse, I hear babies crying, I watch them grow, they'll learn much more. Let's practice very simple melody line over this What a Wonderful World. Now, I'm not going to try to match it exactly, but I'm going to do a simple trick where I'm going to play on 1 string, and I'm going to play the 3rd note of the arpeggio on each chord, and see if it kind of comes close to Louis Armstrong's singing melody. The 3rd note, remember, there's our major 3rd and our minor 3rd. So for the C, the first note, the C chord, the first note, the major 3rd is this E. And then it goes up to E minor, F, E7. The third of this A minor and this A flat major is the same note, so I don't think that chain D. And then at the end of the chorus, we'll go back to the root note C. But let's see if we can do that just playing the third notes as a melody. Let's see how it sounds. Add a little more. Just playing the third note of each chord within that arpeggio sounds pretty close to the melody of that song. I see clouds. E7, A minor, A flat, G, C, all right, thanks for joining me on Tenor Guitar Time, and keep practicing, and I will see you next time.